Now we've created code to display all the elements in an array. Next we are going to write a method that allows the user to add the names manually. So basically the user is going to be asked to enter a name, and they can enter the name, and that name will be added to our array. So from now on we don't need this part of the code, then we'll display it later on. Another thing to note is this code never changes. The displaying and the adding does not change. The only thing that changes is the array type, so the type of data that's stored in the array. So if we had int, then the only thing that was going to change here is this from string to int. So that's an important note. Then from now we are trying to add an element to the array, so I'm going to do that in a method as well. So public static does not return anything, because all it does is add an element to the array that's passed into the method. So I'll say add element will be the name of my method, and it gets an array of strings, and we'll call it names again. And then we are going to get the number of elements or the number of names, but now we are going to pass them in as a reference. The reason for that is if we add a name, then the number of names will have to change from 0 to 1. If we have 5 names and we add another name, then the number of names will have to change from 5 to 6. So for that to happen, we need to pass in the number of names as a reference, and I'll just call it number of elements as well in this method. And to add an element, we need to prompt the user to enter the name, enter player name, right? And then once we got the player's name, we need to add it to the names array. But then when the number of names is 0, we want to add a player's name in the index 0, so that will be the first element. If the number of names is 1, it means there's something in the 0 element, but there's nothing in the 1 element. So we want to add a new player name in the index 1. So then we can just use this number of names, or in this case we will have passed it in as number of elements. We will use that as the index. So num_l will be equals to console dot read line. Because it's a string, we do not need to pass anything. And then after we add the element to the array, what we need to do is increment the number of elements, because the number of elements has increased by 1. So now we can call the method add element and pass in an array of strings, because that's what it expects. And then we pass in the second element as a reference, and that will be the number of names, right? Then to see if this worked, we need to display. So we'll call the display method, and the display method we need to pass in the names, no, just the names and the number of names. But here we didn't pass it as a reference because we don't need to change the value, we just need to display the names. Then let's try to run the code. Hopefully it works, and it doesn't. I did the thing again with the identifier. This time it's on line 20, string of names, it's a reference, and then it's an integer. So now .NET run. We ask the user to enter a player's name. If you say Mvala, then this display method displays the name of the player. So just so it looks right, or we can see what we are displaying, we just add this extra line of code to show what we are displaying. I'll say I'll say display player names, and just do that. Then let's say now instead of calling this method once, we want to add 3 players to this method. Then go to, where is it, here, forgot to add a semicolon, .NET run, enter player name, and then enter another one, and then enter the last one, and that's it. Then it displays the names of the players in our array. But then there's another thing we need to take care of. If there's already 6 players inside this array, so if I try to add more players than the array can take, so now we have 1 2 3 4 5 6. If I try to add 7 players, by the time I add the 7th player, the code is going to break and we're gonna get an error. So let's see what happens, right? Let's say and I don't know any more Sundowns players. And then now I add, let's say 246. The 7th one should break the code. And the index was outside of the bounds. So basically, if we try to add more players than the array can take, we get an error. So to stop this from happening, we can just write an if statement. So if number of elements is equals to 6, so if we have 6 items in the array, then we just tell the user the array is full. So we just say the array is full. Otherwise we run this code here. Otherwise we ask the user to enter a player's name, and then we get the name from the user, and then we increment the number of elements. And I need to remove this. So now let's try to run the code and enter more names than we should. And I missed the semicolon, but I don't know where. It's on line 30. There we go. So now let's run the code. Enter player name. I'm just gonna to make this fast. We have 2 4 5 6. We just exited without anything. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Oh wait, the if number of elements is equals to 6, number of elements plus 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. This was supposed to run 7 times, it ran 6 times. Oh yeah, here it did work. So basically, after I entered the last name, it displayed the array is full, and then it displayed the player names. So now it did not break. The last time, where after I entered the 7th name, the whole code broke and then it exited the program. This time, when I entered when I entered the 7th name, or the name that was supposed to be out of bound, then it said the array is full, and then displayed all the players' names, right? And that's it for this, for adding elements to the array. So